Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the story of how a single software launch completely transformed our relationship with computers. We're talking about a massive cultural shift that took them from being these cold, calculating machines into the intuitive, human-centric tools we use every single day.
Okay, try this crazy thought exercise for a second. I want you to imagine a reality where you had absolutely no start button, no recycle bin to fish out that accidentally deleted document, no internet browser sitting conveniently right there on your desktop. Imagine a world where typing just one wrong letter into a blank black screen meant losing hours of hard work. Forever. Sounds like a total digital nightmare, right? But that was the everyday reality for millions of people before August 24th, 1995.
And this really highlights the stark contrast between those two eras. You've got the agonizing computing era before August 1995, which was completely dominated by complex MS-DOS commands, constantly lost work, and unexpected freezing. And then, the revolutionary accessibility that followed, the start button, the taskbar, and the gateway to the internet. This shift was so massive and so highly anticipated that it literally caused fistfights in retail stores. But, how do we get to that point of absolute frenzy?
Section 1. Before the Start button.
To truly get why people lost their minds over an operating system, which normally sounds pretty dry and technical, we first got to look at how incredibly painful computers actually were back in the early 90s. Before 1995, if you wanted to do something as simple as open a single file, you couldn't just casually double-click a colorful icon. Nope, you had to type perfect, exact text commands into a system called MS-DOS. If you missed one single character or accidentally added an extra space because your finger slipped on the keyboard, boom, the computer would just freeze. No helpful pop-up asking, "Did you mean this?" No error message explaining what went wrong. You just got a blinking cursor on a black screen, literally mocking you in total silence. Computers back then were built for scientists and accountants, not everyday people.
And get this, what's really absurd is the number 8. Because these machines weren't built with the average human in mind, you were severely limited in how you organized your digital life. Before Windows 95, every single file could only have a maximum of 8 characters in its name. Imagine trying to name your entire life's work, your great novel, or your family budget in exactly 8 letters or less. It was just an incredibly frustrating and deeply unintuitive way to work.
Section 2. A War on Complexity.
So Microsoft looked at this super hostile user experience and decided this was exactly the problem they needed to solve. They didn't just want to build slightly better software, they declared a literal war on complexity itself. And to win that war, they went all in. They spent over $300 million marketing Windows 95. At the time, that was more than any software company had ever spent on a single product launch in history. Just to give you an idea of the sheer scale of this campaign, they paid the Rolling Stones an absolute fortune just to license their hit song Start Me Up for the television commercials.
The reason that specific rock song made so much sense was all built around a tiny, revolutionary invention that was genuinely considered magic in 1995, the Start button. It sounds so basic to us today, but a single button that organized your entire computer was totally mind-blowing back then. It debuted alongside the taskbar so you could actually see your open programs, the recycle bin giving you a safety net for deleted files, and finally, thankfully, the ability to use long file names. Goodbye, 8-character limit.
This total transformation of the user experience turned a software launch into a massive cultural event. We're talking about excitement levels normally reserved for giant rock concerts. People actually camped outside electronics stores overnight in the middle of summer. They formed lines wrapping around entire city blocks. Just think about this staggering statistic for a second. In New York alone, one copy of Windows 95 sold every single second for the entire first week. People weren't just buying a software product in a cardboard box. They firmly believed they were buying the future.
Section 3. The Real World Changer.
But here's the thing. There's a massive twist to this story that often gets completely overlooked in the nostalgia of the midnight launches. So, the crucial point is this. Despite the hundreds of millions of dollars spent marketing that famous Start button and all the hype around the new visual interface, was that actually what changed the world forever? I mean, it definitely made computers incredibly easy to use, yes, but the true revolution was quietly waiting in the wings.
The real reason the world fundamentally changed was a small, kind of unassuming icon that appeared on the Windows 95 desktop a few months after the initial launch, Internet Explorer. For the very first time in history, the Internet wasn't some hidden, complicated network requiring a computer science degree to figure out. It was right there, a simple double-click away for everyone. Millions of ordinary families went through this exact magical sequence. Step 1, you physically plugged your home telephone line right into the back of the computer. Step 2, you initiated the connection and listened to that famous, chaotic dial-up screech. Anyone who lived through it can still hear it perfectly in their head today, right? And step 3, you finally stumbled onto this brand new, untamed frontier called the World Wide Web.
Section 4. Our digital DNA. And this brings us to the lasting impact, showing how decisions made by programmers almost 30 years ago directly affect the very device you're using to watch this explainer right now. Those families dialing in back in 1995 had absolutely no idea that their first, painfully slow moments on the web would eventually produce a global ripple effect. That user-friendly gateway directly paved the way for the massive expansion of the World Wide Web in the late 90s and 2000s. By making computers and the internet accessible to the masses, Windows 95 created the huge audience required to build the giants of today. Google, YouTube, Amazon, and even the smartphone technology sitting in your pocket right now.
Windows 95 as an operating system is long dead, but its DNA? It remains alive and well every single time you drag a file into a folder, glance at your taskbar, or click a Start menu. You're using ideas locked in place decades ago by engineers whose main goal was just making technology feel human for the very first time. And they succeeded in ways they couldn't possibly have imagined. Which leaves us with this final thought. Looking at the incredibly rapid pace of AI and spatial computing today, what completely unexpected revolution is waiting right behind our very next click?